Get more from the Courier-Mail's state political editor, Hayden Johnson. Thanks for your time. We finally know all the goodies that have been handed out. Look, there's no surprise. I don't think anyone really who's following politics and covering it would say it's anything other than an election boost. But the other thing it will do, what will it do to inflation? Because it's all rolling out in a pretty short period of time. The government is saying it's $11.2 billion in total assistance to families and to businesses. Now, if that were done by the federal budget, times it by 5, Queensland's 20% of the population, that'd be $55 billion. It's got to have some impact on inflation, doesn't it?
Well, you'd think so. That's the argument that economists like Jean Tunney is making here in Queensland, Tom. They're saying, the government, that it's not so bad because only $3.7 billion of the cost of living measures are the big ones. So the Treasurer's arguing this won't drive up inflation. He's maintained that since the start. Whether it does or not, the budget forecasts that it won't. Inflation's due to be about 1.5% across the next financial year. But Tom, to be honest, I don't think Queenslanders are going to be too worried about it. It seems like that's a problem for the RBA, according to the Treasurer. So, we'll see what happens. But it's a big spending, as you say, budget designed to get Labor to the next election.
Yeah, so if you put it around the rest of the country, only $20 billion, if you like, is going to be shelled out in those few months. It seems to be a bit of a Goldilocks budget because the government says, yes, there's an initial deficit, but then big surpluses to come. How believable is that? I note there's a sort of spending tracker audit scheme, call it what you will, that's in place that's going to track down a few $1 billion. Does it seem viable to you?
Well, who knows? It's going to be one of those key measures that Cameron Dick is going to have to focus on if Labor does win the election. He's pledged to claw back about $3 billion from the public service. Labor has presided over significant increases in wages across the public service. They're relying on consultants. Cameron Dick has said that's got to end. They spent about $3 billion on consultants last year. He wants them to look in-house for their expertise. Whether or not that happens, that's something that we're going to have to wait and see on. But interestingly, Tom, the forecast surpluses are all reliant or predicated on those cost of living measures ending. So vehicle registration's been cut by 20%. Under next year's budget, that's going to go back up 20%. So the Treasurer is kind of doing a bit of a strange dance here. He's saying that we're helping Queenslanders. Future budgets, though, are predicated on those cost of living measures ending.
The other thing that's obviously propping it all up was this extra levy on coal. So has that just been accepted now in Queensland? Is there much of a fight over that? Obviously, the resources companies don't like it, but is the opposition kicking up a fight over that? Where's that at in terms of the actual effect of it?
Yeah, so they've obviously been campaigning the Queensland Resources Council for quite a few years now. They were quite annoyed with the Treasurer at the time for not consulting them. The Treasurer and the Premier, the new Premier Stephen Miles, said they won't back down. They believe that the coal royalties belong to Queenslanders. They've taxed them higher. And it has delivered a massive windfall for the budget, about $10 billion this year. It tapers away, but it seems like the coal royalties are here to stay. They've legislated them now, so any government, a Crisafulli government, would have to change the law to remove those coal royalty tiers. David Crisafulli's been quiet about the coal royalties. He also knows that the Queensland Resources Council would turn their campaign on him. It's expected to be the focus of the Queensland Resources Council in the campaign, but to tax coal miners, to tax big business, it's not going to be too politically difficult for Treasurer Cameron Dick to sell, and that's why he's done it. That's exactly why he's done it. So,
yeah, and overall opposition reaction, we've discussed before that the LNP seems pretty small target. Are they willing to stand up and go, no, this is too much spending, or just giving a sort of thumbs up to all the extra cost of living stuff?
Yeah, well, yesterday, Tom, they came out and delivered the usual sound bites. The opposition's Shadow Treasurer, David Janetsky, argues that never before has a Queensland government spent so much and taxed so much and borrowed so much. David Crisafulli's pledged to share some details of his plans in his budget reply, which will be delivered tomorrow. So whether or not the government is going to kind of, continue their attacks on the LNP for being a small target. I think they will, regardless of what David Crisafulli comes out with tomorrow. But the budget, it's been sort of widely criticised by the LNP, but they've also said on the same hand that they're going to endorse it, they're going to back it, they're going to vote for it. So it's a funny little political game happening in Queensland here at the moment, just 4 months out from an election.